Los Angeles County is trying to figure out a way to seize the debt from rent that wasn't paid during the COVID pandemic. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Los Angeles, California. And no big surprise, a lot of these crazy stories about the eviction moratorium are coming out of California. But before I get into it, go ahead, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that like button, maybe leave a comment down below, and I'll keep working to bring you great articles about the eviction moratorium and other news that's of interest to landlords. So, this article comes from SpectrumNews.com, and it says, LA County researching plans to seize COVID rent. Los Angeles County is considering how best to relieve low-income renters or pandemic-induced rental debt, which one tenants' right advocate called unprecedented and bold. Such advocates, such as Keep LA Housed Coalition, believe LA County could take a range of actions, including something akin to eminent domain, but for debt, to protect tenants and prevent homelessness. Okay, so my understanding of what this article is trying to say is that, let's say a tenant has been in a house for, however long, and they have accumulated a $10,000 debt to a landlord. Well, the county of Los Angeles, what they're proposing is they would seize that $10,000 debt, so the tenant doesn't owe the $10,000 anymore, and instead the county of Los Angeles owes the $10,000. And then their hope is that would allow the tenant to remain in the property, and they wouldn't, become homeless or get evicted. And then the landlord wouldn't be owed by the tenant anymore, but they would be owed by the county. Now, there are a multitude of issues with this. And the first being that I don't know if the county itself is going to have enough money to cover all of the debt that's owed by all of the people who haven't paid rent during the pandemic. Okay, and after that, we're going to go into the fact that, yeah, the county sees the debt, but are they going to pay it back to the landlord? Or are they just going to seize it and be like, well, you're just out of luck? Okay, not to mention the fact that, hey, maybe the landlord actually wants to get rid of this tenant because they still can't pay the rent and they still need to go through the eviction proceedings. So, yeah, there's a multitude of issues with this whole proposal, and I'm not exactly sure if it's even viable, but let's see what else this article says. At the County Board of Supervisors June 8th meeting, Board Chair and 1st District Supervisor Hilda Solis was unanimously supported in a motion directing staff for an exhaustive report examining the extent of rental debt within Los Angeles County, legal avenues the county might use to eliminate COVID-related rental debt, and potential viable sources. The motion and any subsequent potential action is intended to prevent a surge of homelessness once COVID-era tenant protections expire. That's why I brought this motion forward, because we urgently need to come up with an out-of-the-box strategy that comes up with solutions to stretch the federal rental assistance funding as far as possible and helps us resolve the rent debt, Solis said, adding that statewide rental relief programs have left many tenants behind by making the programs too narrow in scope and difficult to access. Yeah, that's what we've been saying for quite a while. Okay, the rental assistance programs, they're very narrow in scope. They don't cover every single tenant. That means there's a lot of tenants out there who don't even qualify for the program, and that means a lot of landlords are getting left out in the dirt, in the dust. Okay, they don't get any rental assistance, yet at the same time they are stuck with these non-paying tenants in their rental units who they can't evict. That means they're just taking a financial loss. And this article is written about with the effect on the tenants. Well, they don't understand that a landlord, if they aren't able to pay their bills, that could lead to their credit getting destroyed. That could lead to them going into foreclosure. It could lead to them facing bankruptcy, and all because they just couldn't get that tenant out. Not to mention, there's a lot of scam artists out there who are tenants, and they don't want to participate in these programs. The landlord might want to participate, but the landlord and the tenant both have to be involved, and that just means that the landlord gets screwed over for however long the eviction moratorium lasts. So I know they're worried about the homelessness problem, but the issue is that there's only so much that a private party can do. Okay, that is the government's job to do something, and just taking debt away, that's a debt owed to a person, and just saying, oh, it's gone. You don't owe anything anymore. That's not the way things work. Okay, you just can't do that. I don't even know if that's legal for a government to do that. It might be unconstitutional. The report also asked staff to determine the estimated average fair market value of residential COVID-19 rental debt owed by a low-income tenant whose landlord has refused to accept rental assistance, as well as estimates of collective rental debt across the county, estimated need for rental assistance, and estimates of landlords across the county. A report is due to come back before the Board of Supervisors as early as mid-July. Okay, so it looks like they're trying to target the landlords who have refused to accept the rental assistance. Okay, and my biggest gripe with that is, like I've said before, there are a multitude of reasons why landlords don't want to take the rental assistance, and one of the biggest ones is that it won't make them whole. Okay, the tenant. The rental assistance, the way it was written in California, from what I've read in other articles, only gives you 80% of what is owed of the back rent, and then going forward into the future, only gives you 25% of the normal rental payment. So, yeah, a landlord can really get screwed on that. Also, it prevents you from being able to evict that non-paying tenant afterwards. Okay, after you accept it. So there's a lot of landlords who just don't want to take it, and just saying that the landlord refused to take it, they don't ask why, they don't ask, what the true issue of why the landlords don't want to take it is. And, it's once again trying to target landlords and paint us as bad people, not realizing that we're running businesses here and our livelihoods depend upon the things that we do. Requesting a value estimate for such a limited-sounding portion of residents may seem restrictive, but Solis's motion cites HUD data estimating that more than 1 million LA County households qualified as low-income before the pandemic. Her motion also quotes a calculation that county renters may owe nearly $1 billion in back rent. The actions being investigated by the county would go a long way towards helping residents like Irma Cervantes. And then it goes into another hard luck tenant story, which I am not going to read. Let's skip beyond that for now. Ruby Rivera, the director of community organizing with Inner City Struggle, said that Solis's motion isn't the perfect solution, but it is a solution. For us, debt seizure is important because if the county is able to take on that debt and take it off the backs of the tenants, the county can make the funds that come later down the line last and make them go further, Rivera said. That's why this motion can be restrictive. What the study is focusing on is the big pieces. We want to be a stud to show that it can happen. Once they get the report back in 45 days, we can use the findings for advocate for a policy that affects real change. I think it's unprecedented and bold, but it has been found to be legally sound. Yeah, it is unprecedented. It is bold, and that means it's going to be a complete cluster, okay? Whenever they throw something new out there like this, like the government buying people's debt or taking people's debt on for them, it becomes a bureaucratic mess. And usually it falls on the back of those like me, the landlords, okay? So what I imagine is the government will take that debt away, and then they won't have a means to pay the landlords back, and the landlords will just be out however many thousands, and meanwhile they won't be allowed to evict those tenants either. So yeah, it could end up being a complete disaster, and this plan sounds like just that, like it's a complete disaster. And they always seem to have all these good intentions, and they create these complicated, ridiculous government programs to solve problems that already have simple solutions. And the simple solution is, in the eviction moratorium, allow landlords to remove non-paying tenants from their properties and to collect money that is owed to them.